Here are 5 reasons why I'm concerned with the Gates family. Put it on the screen. Number 1, Gates has said, if there were such a thing as world government, we would be better prepared. Number 2, Bill Gates refuses to explain, even after all these years have gone by, still, hey, there's a big question mark there, refuses to explain why he is on the flight logs with pedophile Epstein on his plane. Now, I mean, I'm not saying he is or isn't. There's nothing that would suggest that Bill Gates is a pedophile. Now, you know, some of you would be like, well, yeah, of course. Some of you would be like, well, you don't know what I know, right? So I'm just saying there's no evidence of that. But what we can take to the bank is it was most likely he didn't want to reveal why he was on the plane because it would reveal his obsession with funding transhumanism. That is most likely why he will not talk about why he's on those flight logs. Number 3, the Gates Foundation has owned 1 million shares of Monsanto, who looks not only to control the world's food supply and poison everyone as they do it, they do their best to ruin any competition from sustainable growth and organic farmers. So at one point, Bill Gates was also a convinced Malthusian. That was not well received, my friend, by the public. So he started kind of backtracking those thoughts. But unfortunately for him, he is on record, on video, talking about how he was a convinced Malthusian. So just understand the medical definition of Malthusian is this. Put it on the screen. Of or relating to Malthus or to his theory that population tends to increase at a faster rate than it can be sustained, and that unless it is checked by moral restraint or by disease, famine, war, or other disaster, widespread poverty and degradation inevitably is a result.
You mean people weren't okay with that?
Can you believe that?
Shocking.
Yeah. I mean, I thought that those things were okay. So why such an obsession with pandemics, right? The next deadly disease that will cause a global pandemic is coming, Bill Gates has said. He's also let us know that we're not ready. Good thing we can count on him, riding on the right white horse. An illness like the pandemic of 1918 influenza could kill 30 million people within 6 months, Gates said, adding that the next disease might not even be a flu, but something we've never seen. And the world should prepare as it does for war. Here is an interview with Dr. Anthony Fauci, whom we all trust with our health. Okay.
Crickets.
Yeah. And he's describing a meeting that Bill Gates set up at his home in the year 2000 with global health leaders. Listen to this 43-minute audio interview.
He had a bunch of international global health leaders that he invited to his home that was showing everyone in the tour of the house. And he said, "Can I have some time with you in my library, in this amazingly beautiful library?" And it was there that he said, "You know, Tony, you run the biggest infectious disease institute in the world, and I want to make sure the money I spend is well spent. Why don't we really get to know each other? Why don't we be partners?" Our interactions and our collaborations became closer and closer with tuberculosis, with HIV, with the vaccine trial.
Wow. So it started to fade off at the end. Let me read that last sentence for you. Why don't we really get to know each other? Bill Gates said, why don't we be partners? And then Fauci continues, our interactions and our collaborations became closer and closer with tuberculosis, with HIV, with vaccine trials. Okay, well, with that in mind, let us continue. Take a look at this. Article, Boston University creates COVID strain with 80% mortality in mice. In an effort to research what makes Omicron so transmissible, we always pronounce it Omicron, but it's Omicron, so transmissible, and funded in part by different grants, the researchers cobbled the Omicron, there we go again, spike protein to the original strain of COVID-19. The results was 5 times more infectious than Omicron. Researchers attached Omicron spike to the original wild-type strain that first emerged in Wuhan at the start of the pandemic. The researchers looked at how mice fared against the new hybrid strain and compared to the original Omicron variant. The researchers also looked at the effect of different strains on human lung cells grown in the lab, which COVID latches onto before instructing healthy cells to make copies of itself. They found that the modified strain produces 5 times more viral particles than the original Omicron strain, which all the rodents survived that. And then they changed it, and then 80% mortality rate. So why is this important? Because it means that Fauci lied. The Boston lab is admitting to engineering extremely deadly chimeric COVID virus with funding from Anthony Fauci and Bill Gates.
Yeah, this is that gain of function research that that term became very popular back in 2020 when we realized that North Carolina was that university was engaging in it, Australia was,
Canada,
and Wuhan.
Exactly. So that's the third reason why I don't necessarily trust the Gates. Fourth, while giving a TED Talk presentation, Bill Gates said, quote, "The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 to 15%. That is the statement of a lifetime. You go on all the fact-checking websites, they'll say it's all taken out of context. So Bill Gates comes to the rescue, and he explains what he meant by that statement. And he's talking about how, listen, in these third world developing countries, if we can make them healthier individuals and also give them a choice on what to do with that child within their womb, studies show that women will have multiple babies in the developing countries because they don't know if their baby is going to survive past age 5. But if we can up their options and make them generally healthier people, studies show that they don't have as many kids. So that's how he tried to explain that quote. Not much better, honest, if you ask me.
No.
Yeah. And just really quickly, we're gonna talk about this because it's just in this thread, and then we're gonna go to number 5, the history of Bill Gates' dad. I am super uncomfortable with this, and we're gonna continue this conversation with what the CDC decides to do. But this article talks about how CDC could add COVID vaccine requirement for children to immunization list with no clinical data, Dr. McCary. And it's a Fox News article. CDC is receiving a lot of backlash for this, but they're looking to put it on the required list. Then it would likely go to states, and there are certain states that would make it mandatory.
Like our state.
Like Illinois. And, if there's not some type of religious exemption or something like that, or if you go to private school, they don't require it. I'm leaving Illinois. I'm leaving Illinois. We'll film the show from somewhere else if it comes to that. I hope we can find other ways around that, but that's where we are. So now, let's circle back to abortions and Planned Parenthood. Population control, all these things are the topics of today's discussion. Number 5, the reasons I don't trust the Gates family. Bill Gates' dad was a top eugenicist and served on the board of Planned Parenthood. So, many of you don't know that. by the way, eugenics, it's the science of improving a human population by controlled breeding to increase the occurrence of desirable, heritable characteristics. That's basically what it means. You know, you think of images of, like, you know, Nazis